l'Europe et des États-Unis. Toutes vos chaînes de télévision préférées sous un seul toit. Pour des informations, appelez le numéro suivant +1 612 804 02 95 ou allez sur notre site web tempoafrique.com. Achetez maintenant $193 pour toute l'année, plus l'expédition et le TV Box.
Hot mix mixing.
Welcome to Ellen Jamal Talk Show at Tempo Africa TV, and we have another topic we're going to talk about is about both men and women today in our society, especially here in the United States, where you can see the title, Women on Protection Mode and Men on Survival Mode. So I'm going to go through a couple of details, what I have observed and what I've seen so far. And this message is mostly for single people. So the society that we're going through, the lifestyle that we're going through, how things are gradually changing among the single individuals, from teen to the youth, the young adults, which are between 25 to 35. If you're a married couple, I would say you are very blessed. Stay in your marriage. Unless you're going through some complications in your marriage or a lot of disagreement. And I will touch a little bit based on that. Maybe this might also apply to you as well, okay? But based on what I have observed and what I have seen myself is women are on protective mode, okay? And what I mean by that is now we live in a society where men and women are equal. So a woman can, get a job and manage her life just as much as a man would be able to take care of her. Now, if you look back in the old days, I would ask my parents questions like, what were relationships like in your old days? And my mom would say, I'm glad I was a teenager in the old days, and some of the things like that, our generation some people may envy that. They may think like, okay, if we can go back to 90s or the 80s, maybe relationships were better and easier at the time compared to the 2000s going forward, because we're finding a lot of challenges in balancing or managing relationships or even having relationships with other individuals, okay? So with women's being on protective mode, you have women's that are doing the best they can to maintain their life, to keep up with, with the lifestyle that they desire, and also being able to work. And you have a lot of women as well that are working in jobs that are even meant for men, but they still, have to stay strong and try to make the equal amount of money. So these are some of the fights we were going through with like feminist group and the women's right and so and so. There was actually a joke, like all the women who went out and marched and fought for feminism, life was really good at the time, where the man go do the hardest job, the woman stays home and she does the job that she wants, and she doesn't have to work like a man or be built like a man or have a strength like a man, and even in today's society, it's very challenging for some of the women as well, But definitely kudos to that movement as well, where many women have become very self-sufficient and very manageable of their own life. But majority of them are single, okay? Especially in the minority community or the Black community or the African community. Majority of them are single because there's this African mentality where when a woman is very strong for her lifestyle or she's very independent for her lifestyle, the man gets intimidated, because they really don't know how to balance that, or they feel like if she makes more money than I do, then what's the point of having a woman in my life, There's only very few men, okay, I would say a very small percentage that would gradually accept a woman that is very independent, hardworking, and knows how to get her things done, all right? There's only very few of that, but many women wants to be in a relationship. They want to be in love. They want to have a connection with someone, be in a romantic relationship. Okay? There's still a lot of women who wants that, and most of those women are highly affected by the women who don't really want that anyway. So it's kind of hard to judge where people are or what they want in relationship. Secondly, we've hit the time where there's a lack of communication. We no longer express directly what we feel and what we think. And also as well, you know, things are a lot slower in communication, all right? When you have a crush on someone or you're thinking about someone, maybe you want to talk to them, you want to engage with them, and they're not responding back. Or maybe they're responding like 3 days later or a week later or even a month later. Like there's no consistency, right? So that also creates a frustration for those that wants to be in a relationship, you know, with that individual or with a lot of the others as well for women, all right? And also with women, you know, on a protective mode is women against women or versus against women, you know. There's been a huge rate of, you know, jealousy and envy towards other women. You know, again, you're an independent woman, you're working, you're managing yourself, you're living the life that you want, and you're creating the life that you dream of, all right, or even the lifestyle. Maybe you have some girlfriends that are, you know, jealous of you, and women are very, 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 very difficult. They are very, very trifling when it comes to, you know, gossip about their own friends or other women. They can really destroy another woman, all right? So that is another, you know, big effect that is going on today in our society, okay? Your friend could be doing so well with her life. She could be making her own money, but instead of you supporting her or congratulating her, you know, you kind of do it with a fake smile nowadays and probably, you know, come up with a really trifling plan to try to get her down, you know. Women don't want to see other women be successful, all right? Especially those women that really envy that, but they don't have a way out. They do not want to see other women be successful. So it's very rare to have that friendship, all right, of womanhood anymore. Is very less, you know. Most women are solo, they're loners. So they are in this ultimate protection mode where they have to protect themselves from their friends that envy their success and also from the men that are intimidated by her success as well. So it kind of sucks. If you guys remember the story of that went viral, it was really, really viral for like a good couple months. Shanquella Robinson, all right? She was murdered in Mexico, which they call it the Six Cabo, where her friends, you know, set up a trap against her and actually, you know, killed her. And that was labeled as a femicide. So femicide is actually a real thing. When I first watched that tragedy happen, I actually didn't believe it. I was scared for a second. I was very nervous because I really couldn't believe such thing would exist, you know. I mean, me personally, I'm a solo individual. I'm a loner. I really don't keep a lot of friends around, but you know, just seeing something like that, someone who has, you know, friends that would go on a trip with her, on a resort with her. I mean, those are the things you would dream. Those are the things you would want, you know, as a girl from your friend, you know, friendship goals, you know. And I was glad I did not really envy that much of it because I kind of envied that, you know, like if you have good friends that are willing to travel with you and go enjoy different places, like what could get any better than that, all right? And then now here's Shanquella Robinson's story that came out. She was murdered by the people she trusts very well, you know, and that is scary. It is a huge red flag, and it is a huge sign that is happening in our society. So it may be one of those rare cases, maybe it's not that often. So no need to put fear on anyone about friendships or having, guy friends and girlfriends all in one place. But it's definitely something to also be aware of, to keep in mind, that when you're doing so well with your life, there are people that are going to envy you. Jealousy is very, very real, Even nowadays with social media, it's not like it used to before, where you do something so amazing, all your friends, your Facebook friends will comment, they will like, they will congratulate you, they will cheer for you. But in today's society, everybody watches from afar. Everybody keeps their distance. They keep their ground. Nobody is really, showing their authenticity anymore. So, I guess fear over faith is kind of majority of what we're seeing now. But yeah, Shaquilla Robinson was definitely an awakening. It was a huge eye-opening, to our society and what is happening today. So all the ladies out there, be aware of your friends. Of course, stay alert at all time. Like God said, stay alert, because the devil is always ready to conquer whatever he finds. He roars like a lion, all right? So whatever is your surrounding, be aware of that as well, But also keep, those people around you that actually makes you happy, that are very authentic, From what I know in real friendship communication is, I remember those days you would call your friend and be like, hey, guess what? Oh my God, I got accepted for this gig, or I'm doing this, or maybe you would call your friend and say, hey, there's a party going on tonight. Do you want to go? Things like that are dying down. They're not happening anymore. But if you have a friend like that, who's very outgoing and can just blow you up, or just cry to you about their feelings or ask you how you're doing, like really how you're doing, those are the few to keep around. I would say keep them, because I feel like, maybe things are getting worse, or maybe it comes with the age. As you get older, who knows? Maybe you drift away from social society, and once you hit that, late young adult age, like mid-30s, maybe, who knows, all the chances are done of social, By then, who knows if you can make it new friends or have a new relationship, But blessing to those that can still receive it. Now, going to men on survival mode, all right? And what I mean by that is, I think men have completely forgotten, not all of them, a majority of them, is lack of communication, knowing how to ask a girl out, or saying, walking up to her at a church or at a bar or at a park and say, wow, you're gorgeous, I would like to take you out on a date or get to know you, exchange number. I know myself in today's world, if a guy asks me for my information, I'll say, well, here's my Instagram, here's my Facebook. You can reach me out on there. Or a lot of people use WhatsApp, most of the diaspora in the third world countries. So I don't give up my personal number anymore, but I don't know if a lot of people do it or they still do, But there are a lot of those cases where men are having a hard time knowing how to holler at a girl nowadays, how to, I don't know, get to know her, take her out on a date, once you get the opportunity to even take her out on a date, who knows what kind of girl you're running into, like the personalities and the behaviors and all of that have completely shifted, all right? There are some women you take on a date, maybe they are, nagging. Like I've seen some trends on social media where I think this girl was complaining about how the guy is not paying for a takeout for her children's. So for the single moms out there, I would say all the single moms out there is not the man's job who's taking you on a date to pay for your takeout for your children's or an extra takeout, all right? So it's a date, it's between you and them. You guys are getting to know each other. You guys are still on the first date. So all of the other surroundings that you have nothing to do with the date, But I've seen a lot of complaints of that on social media, and I find it very shocking and heroic. And I laugh. It's kind of funny sometimes because it's like, is that really the dating world we are in nowadays? Where the women demand more than what is supposed than the whole purpose of the dating. So I don't blame a lot of men. You definitely have. You're definitely innocent on that. Let's just say so. But it's still challenging. And then it just ends up being toxic, and it ends up being drama, and maybe the guy just doesn't really want to put himself in those situations, because you know how they say back in the old days, women do most of the naggings, men are like the one who are more quiet and observe. But today you can't tell the difference. The women's are nagging, the men's are nagging, so it's like gender role is really just one gender from what I see. So yes, and again, with men being on survival mode as well is also expressing who they are, and I think it's just gotten. I remember there were so many talks about how the men, it's okay for you to express how you feel. It's okay to let out your emotions, because at the end of the day, you are a human being, and men really do need to express themselves and let it out, especially, African, Black men as well, because they hold in a lot of things, all right? So majority of the things they holding in your feelings or all of that is at least to, self, I don't know what I would call it, but we'll figure it out eventually. So, but where now in the new survival, it's kind of like, hey, hi, bye, how are you doing? That's it, like there's not a real check-in. There's not like a real, conversation to say, what, like what is really going on with you? What was your day like? What are you thinking? Like deep communication, okay, deep conversations, and that goes for both genders, because neither the side are not having those deep conversation anymore, and it leads us to personal isolations, it declines the bonding between the two. So if we're not really connected anymore, if we're not expressing our feelings, we're not expressing our thoughts, what does that lead us to? It leads to, for example, I think like for me, if I was, in a relationship with a guy, and, I expect us to share our thoughts, like if I did something great today, he's the one I can share it all with. If I'm sad, or if I'm hurting, or if I'm having some personal problems or difficulties that I'm dealing with, I can let it out towards that person, Just letting it out is like a huge relief, all right? It's a huge relief. But it seems like, there's not that comfort anymore between relationship where it's like, I don't know if I want to open up that deep, to that person anymore, because who knows, they might judge you, they might reject it, they might call you weak, or they might just downgrade you, So that's a lot of what we're dealing with, in our generation, including with the teens. But I know, going to some of the statistics, I can't even say it correctly, that I'm going to share with you in what we are in right now in 2022. So there's a saying that about 71% of single individuals are interested in long-term relationship, all right? And maybe we have learned that we don't want to be alone. We don't want to live a lonely life. Some of us wake up to that, Not everybody wants to be alone. There are some loners, they can handle it, I mean, even loners don't want to be alone. They just like to be alone to do their own things. But having a relationship or a bond with someone is always important. Human connections or interaction is always important, Even when God created man, Adam couldn't be alone. He had to bring Eve along, you know. So it's something we have to remember that, you know, humanity, we need each other. We need to be with someone. You know, if you have a wonderful partner that you guys could get along, you know, keep that person. So about 71% of them are craving for that long-term relationship. So, which is good. Who knows what it's going to be like? Maybe things will gradually start to change to our human interactions, our human connections and bonding in the next few years. At least I'm hoping so, because I'm a single individual wanting to interact, you know, or be in a relationship with someone I can actually connect with, all right? And yes, finding the right person who, you know, who is like-minded is also good. And, you know, there are a lot of people who are dating multiple people until one of them, you know, becomes your match or you guys happen to connect with each other, so, which is good. And then 22% of them are not sure. That's still a pretty high rate percentage, but I guess it's pretty normal. I wouldn't really complain too much on that. They're not sure, and also with the monogamy as well. And then 18% of them have been in love with more than one person at once. And 42% of the Gen Z singles suffer from dating relations social anxiety. So, yeah, as I was directing and pointing out in the beginning, all right, so the Gen Z are the ones who are having it worse than the millennials. So the millennials are still, you know, gradually figuring it out. They're kind of in the borderline, you know. I mean, the boomer had it all good. They had it all good. They were dating, they were going out, they were having fun, they were having picnics, they were having all kind of wonderful connections, and communication was good. So when it comes to the millennials, everybody's busy doing their own thing in their own world, developing themselves, or whether it's entrepreneur or job or, you know, selfie moments and things. And the Gen Zs are kind of having that difficulty now with the relationships. So, because now you have multiple relationships in our society. So I'm just gonna name a few that exist now. So you have monogamy. Yeah, monogamy is very common now, where you have multiple relationships at the same time, or like a squat relationship, you know, where it's guys and girls. Like there's really no, I don't even know what it means, but squat relationship, you know, when I think of it generally, my simple term is friendship, whether it is group of girls that are friends or a group of guys and girls that are friends, which is usually in the teens or in the 20s. And then you have a poly relationship as well. And that is, poly relationship is when you have one man and two women's, or you marry, you know, two women's at once instead of just one woman. I think we're slowly slipping away from the two shall become one kind of relationship. I mean, I'm glad there's still like a huge percentage of people that follows that and wants to have that relationship. But in our youth and, you know, and the next generation coming up, is really becoming more challenging. So where now is also the gender role too, that also plays a lot of anxiety in the relationship nowadays, you know, because you have girls calling themselves boys, you have boys calling themselves girls, and, you know, not sure how that works, all right? I haven't really completely understand that, but that's, you know, one of the relationship status we are going through in today's society as well. So with the Gen Z suffering from dating related social anxiety, I mean, hopefully we'll have a Gen Z one day come in and speak about it. So if you're watching this topic and you want to, you know, share your story, please write us a message, let us know. We would love to hear from you. What is the dating society is like nowadays with the Gen Z, you know? Especially with all of these gender roles that we have going on and all these equality, whether it's in the workforce or it's in the business or entrepreneur, successfulship, all of those. We like to hear from you, you know. These are the things that can, you know, help us connect and interact as human beings. and not just be left in the dark with anxiety, assuming what we think is the other person is feeling, you know? Because even some people don't want to get into a relationship because of rejection, all right? So that's another mode for the men, you know, in the survival mode, you know, is rejections, all right? So rejections can be really hard in a relationship. It can be really hard. And I think women are also starting to face rejections nowadays. It's not like the old day where the man sees the girl, takes her on a date, and she's the one that gets to reject the guy. Where today, even women get rejected too. And I think women are starting to feel what that is like as well, you know. So rejections can be pretty hard, you know. But I feel like once you get used to it, then it becomes like nothing, you know. It's like, oh, well, you know, my mindset is like, all right, well, I'll go on a date. If he rejects me, that's fine. You move on. You go to the next person, you know. There's 7 billion people in the world. So you can always find your perfect match. Thank you, and have a wonderful night from your host, Ellen Yamal.
Du nouveau à Minneapolis, Tempo Afrique Travel. Vous voulez voyager? Achetez vos billets d'avion à l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, pas de problème de connexion, pas de problème de transfert de vol. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.
Votre attention s'il vous plaît. IPTV Services. Tempo Afrique TV vous offre 6000 chaînes de télévision en direct de l'Afrique, de l'Europe et des États-Unis. Toutes vos chaînes de télévision préférées sous un seul toit. Pour des informations, appelez le numéro suivant +1 612 804 02 95 ou allez sur notre site web tempoafrique.com. Achetez maintenant $193 pour toute l'année, plus l'expédition et le TV Box.
Hot Mix Mixing.